Hi, this is Luis Rios. I'm building the Web of Trust, which is trust infrastructure for AI agents. I worked on a demo to show the implementation of the authorization options API, which is an API used to gather the parameters that are needed to delegate the authentication and data access consent to identity providers. Before diving into the demo, let me give you some context. So, Web of Trust consists of three different subsystems: trust, identity, and data. Everything starts in number one by establishing trust. In number two, those trusted entities are registered. Number three is about the user granting access to their data. And number four is the agent having access to the data. The demo is about number three, and the participants are the user, the Web of Trust front-end application, the Web of Trust back-end application, and the Google service. At this point, the user has decided to grant access to the agent, so they are taken to this consent screen where they can see the organization and the agent that is going to have access to their data, and the providers that are taking care of the data, in this case, the same entity for both cases. The user can granularly decide what type of data they want to give access to the agent. And once they decide to accept, they are taken in this case to Google. But going back, when we click in the accept, what happens is that the identity server is invoked with the authorization options API, which is going to return for Google the parameters that are needed to be used. And then those are the parameters that are taken into the window that is here, where the user is authenticated, and then they are presented with the information, the data that in this case, Web of Trust want to have access. You can see that the organization and the agent are not visible here because they are unknown to Google. So Web of Trust is the intermediary to grant access to the agent. About the structure of the code, I'm following the principles of green architecture. As such, there is an application layer, domain and infra layers, and the composition which wires everything together. In addition to that, I created a very modular solution where everything that you see here in this diagram is basically a module. Worth mentioning the operations. So the APIs are implemented by operations, which are broken down into assemblies and which are also broken down into tasks. So, for example, taking the authorization options API as an example, there are two main tasks in implementing that API, which is fetching the configuration from some place, from some repository, which is done here. And the other is generating the runtime values that are required, like the PXE parameters, the state, the nonce, and so on.